This tutorial will show you an easy method to make tassels using embroidery thread. Each skein of embroidery thread is just 25 cents at Recraft, and it's enough to make 2 matching tassels. Perfect for matching zippers on a backpack or a set of keychains for you and a good friend. I recommend this craft for middle school students and above, or upper elementary school with help and practice. Each skein gives you 2 chances to practice, so have fun, take your time, and pause this video anytime. I am using embroidery thread with the label still on. This is actually from JP Coats, which is based right here in Greer, South Carolina. Part 1, the materials we're going to need. This is really simple and doesn't require many materials. Again, we still have that 1 skein of embroidery thread. I've also got a pair of scissors here and a bead. I'm using a pony bead. This very first part, if you already have a Recraft kit, you can skip ahead. But if you did have a kit, it's going to come with all the things that you need. Look for a skein of embroidery thread, and if you already have a kit, you may have 4 pieces of pre-cut thread along with it. So if you already have these pre-cut pieces, you can skip this next step. If you don't have pre-cut pieces, you're just going to hold these labels firmly. An adult may be helpful as well, and you're going to look for the end of thread here. You're going to hold this firmly with your left hand, and you're going to gently pull 1 length of thread, and that was actually pre-cut. And you're going to just pull a length of thread about 1 foot long. Snip that off until you have 4 of them for your color. So you can set your threads, your 4 threads, away for now, kind of toward the back. We are actually going to use a full skein of this thread. I'm going to pick 2 of these pink ones and 2 green ones, just so that we can see the colors a little bit better as we make this craft together. So working from that skein of thread, I'm going to move the 2 labels together, sliding them to the middle of the thread, like so. And then I'm going to make kind of a big loop on the ends here. There's 1 loop. And here's the other loop. It might take you a second to get to them, but now we have 2 big loops. It's kind of like a figure 8, just like that. Okay, we have 4 pieces of those cut thread, each about 1 foot long again. And again, I'm gonna use green for the pull. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this green thread, I'm going to slide it through the end, and I want these 2 pieces to be about the same length, and they're going to be right at the top of my skein there. And we're going to tie 2 overhand knots into this. So an overhand knot, we're going to go right over left, loop that through, and pull it real tight. And then we're going to go right over left again, do another overhand knot, and real tight. Okay, so those are coming away. That's really good. So this is the pull. This is where it's going to attach to your zipper or keychain right here. This next step, step 2, is actually optional, but I think it looks really awesome with a bead. And what I'm going to do, and it looks like when I tied, these strings actually kind of became uneven. That's fine. I'm going to trim them so they're exactly the same length. And I'm actually going to twist them together a little bit at the end here for this next step. I want to slide this bead onto these 2 threads, both of them at the same time, like so. And then I'm actually going to loop the thread around the bead, and I'm going to slide the threads through again. So what I actually like to do is I like to go around my finger. It makes a bigger hole through the pony bead. You can use any bead you want, but pony beads mean you can slide it through 2 times and no needle required. And now that they're through twice, there's that little loop, see that? And I'm going to slide the bead all the way down to the full skein, this blue skein. And you can see I've got these two green threads here. I actually like to spread those out a little bit, so one's on each side. All right, and I'm going to pull that tight. I'm going to pull the bead all the way down against the main part of the skein, like that. So I'm going to separate these two threads now, and I'm going to do another double overhand knot. I'm going to go right over left, and I'm going to go right over left again. And now the bead is on tight, attached to the top of the skein of thread. Awesome. Third and final step to make this pull, I like to use my finger and wrap. You're going to take both these threads together, these green thread ends. I'm going to wrap it around my finger, which gives me about an inch, maybe a little better than an inch, depends on how big your finger is, of thread. And I've wrapped them together, and I'm making just one big overhand knot about an inch or 2 inches from the end of this green string, just like so. So now we've got the skein of thread, we've got our bead securely on there, we did a security knot, then the bead. Now we have another knot here, and we have this little loop here. I can trim this off right there. And that is going to attach to a zipper or a keychain as you wish. So, part 3, and this is where we're going to make our actual tassel. We're going to use the hot pink string up here for the tassel, again, just so that you can kind of differentiate between the colors as we go along in this video. First thing I'm doing is I'm sliding that label all the way up toward the bead, and you may want to actually kind of pull on the embroidery skein a little bit so that these are all nice and tight. But I am pulling it, as you can see, so that there's just a little bit of the skein left, about the width of another bead. Not much more than that, all right? I'm going to take one of my pink threads, push this green one out of the way, that's for the other side. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make a little loop, a little hook in the end of the thread, and you'll see why in just a second. I'm going to pick up where both threads, I'm going to pick up both threads, and that loop I'm going to put over the label. Loop and label go together. I'm going to hold that tightly with this hand. And now I've got a short end and I've got a long end. I'm going to take the long end and I'm going to start wrapping it around the very edge of the skein, right at the top. I'm doing this very tightly. I'm tightly wrapping it around and around. Now when I've got about an inch of it left, this part's still off to the side. When I've got about an inch of it left, I'm going to take that tail and I'm going to tuck it through the loop, like that. I've wrapped it, and now I've tucked it through that loop that we had at the beginning. And this is where the magic happens. This is what was the short end of the thread. I'm going to pull on it, and look what happens. It tightens that loop. And now I can take both sides, and we've made one big, super tight knot around the top. Now with these threads, I can snip those down as tightly, as closely as I want. It's nice and tight. Okay, so I've just done the pull part as well as the tassel part here, and I'm going to slide this down. If you wanted to stop right here, you could slide the label to the middle of the skein and you could simply cut it right here. But I'm going to do a speed round, and I'm going to use our other two pieces of thread, and I'm going to do this other side as quick as I can. So maybe it gives you a little different perspective. So again, I slide the loop to the middle. I mean the paper wrapper to the middle. I've got a nice loop of thread here. I'm going to use one of my strands of thread to go through here. I want this to be roughly even, like so at the top. And I'm going to do an overhand knot. nice and tight. And then I'm going to do another second overhand knot, nice and tight. All right. See how quickly I can get this bead on. All right, so the bead's going to come through here. All right, the bead is through, and I'm going to press it against my finger, and I'm going to put the thread through a second time. There they are. So that's through twice now. And I'm going to push that bead all the way down to this floss, to the embroidery thread skein. Now I'm going to tie an overhand knot, 1, tie a second overhand knot, 2. All right, the bead is now locked on. And I'm going to take them both together. I'm going to tie another knot about 1 or 2 inches here, and I like to use my finger to measure that off. Go wrap around my finger, and then that's about right. Okay, so there's that knot. I can now trim off the excess. Now I've got my other piece of thread here. I'm going to move the label up to the top so that there's about the width of 1 bead remaining there. Maybe a little more if you want. Got a little J hook there. I'm going to take the loop with the label, hold that down together, and that short end I'm going to leave hanging, and the long end I'm going to wrap as tightly as I can around the top of the skein. And when I have only 1 inch or 2 left from that long end, I'm going to pass it through the hoop, through the loop we made. I've got that end in one hand, and here's the other, the short end here. I'm going to pull on both of them together for a nice tight knot. Finally, the big reveal. Okay, so we're good. I'm going to push the labels toward the middle here. And right smack in the middle, I get to cut nice and straight. Take the label off, and look at that. Now this is with 3 different colors, and of course you can do different colors, add more beads if you'd like. We did the different colors just so that we could demonstrate the craft a little easier. But look at that. One last step that you may not be aware of is how to get a loop onto a zipper pull. And that is actually pretty easy. I'm going to use this key ring as an example. I put the key ring here, I put the loop over the key ring like this, and now I've got a loop on this side, and I'm just going to push the whole keychain through this little loop. Now the larger your loop, the easier this is. It's going to be a bit snugger with a small loop. But there it is. It's looped over itself now, self-tightening knot. And there we go. It's on the keychain. And you can do that again on a zipper or whatever you want. You're just going to loop it around and then push the tassel through that loop to get it looped on there. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Have fun and come visit Recraft.